combat.
Battlefield 6 has had a strong start. For the first time, it beat Call of Duty. Big wow. Obviously things weren't perfect, between EA testing the boundaries with skins, and older fans wanting for larger maps. And I'll add to that. You know, I played Battlefield since the 1943 DLC. I played Battlefield since 1943, sonny. Not 1942, because that was a really long time ago. Not 1943 though. That was way more recent. If you know, you know. One of my favorite additions, however, was more recent. Breakthrough mode. Battlefield's premier mode has always been Conquest. It's where you capture multiple points across a large map. They also had Rush, a smaller mode with half the players, where you attack and defend objectives. Breakthrough was a mix of these two modes, the scale of Conquest with the focus of Rush. In Rush you get these MCOM things you have to destroy. In Breakthrough, you take zones, sector by sector, and advance. However, with more players and larger maps you had more dynamic combat. Two sides smash into each other with everything they got. It was first added in Battlefield 1 back in 2017, and it's been a Conquest equivalent ever since. Until now. It has been downsized over time in Battlefield 6, with smaller maps and fewer vehicles. Breakthrough is supposed to be a siege. Are you telling me? At the siege of New York or Cairo, both are very large and important cities in their countries and globally. You don't bring the jets? You don't bring basically everything? And also, shouldn't we be fighting over larger areas? We are literally seizing an enemy city or defending it. I prefer Breakthrough to Conquest because I'm a lone wolf player. Or friendless, if you translate that from gamer, because engagements happen along a battle line, with skirmishes happening on the outskirts. Joining the fight or avoiding it is easy, and squads are even more potent. The best part was being a part of a massive battle. Watching all these war machines fight, watching all these soldiers charge into each other. It's very movie-like. It funnels players into the center. It's still very fast-paced compared to Conquest without being a meat grinder, most of the time. We've had a few Rush Breakthrough meat grinder maps in the past. One thing to remember about Breakthrough is that it was supposed to be an equivalent mode to Conquest, with full access to the combined arms warfare of Conquest mode, large maps, and the full player count. However, like most of the game, lots of elements are being stripped down, including Breakthrough. Most of the maps are now 48 players. Most of the maps you don't have access to the full suite of vehicles. The mode is a lot smaller now. It's closer to Rush than to Conquest. It's not as good as it used to be, and it feels more and more like an afterthought. Especially with the last couple of maps. Eastwood was okay, but the Oilfields map was bad. It was just a meat grinder. The map was so small, like unnecessarily small. The Oilfields could have easily been double the size and it wouldn't have hurt the experience. For me, as a Breakthrough player, we're getting a gimped version of the mode, and it's reflective of them trying to make the game more like COD. I haven't played COD in years, but back when I played, I saw something very similar, specifically in the 2019 game. They added Conquest with wide-ish maps, and it was pretty good stuff. They called it Ground War. Over time, the maps got smaller and the mode got worse. That, combined with the spotty support for the mode, depending on the dev, I decided to not keep playing. Then I did a hard pivot and played a game about knights with swords and briefly got obsessed. Anyways, the point I'm getting at, modes with large player counts don't benefit from small maps, and if you keep lowering the player count for Breakthrough, just cut the mode and focus on making Rush better, or cut Rush and make Breakthrough better. Or refresh Breakthrough and make it 64 players again, along with maps that work for it. That would be the Max Karma Good Ending 100 Chungus. Hint hint, that's the right option. Rush is an outdated mode. It's a product of an older console limitation. Most of the time, PS3, 360, they couldn't run very high player counts. Usually it was about 32 players at most for most games. Battlefield was stuck at 24 until it hit the next generation. Rush was a good mode for consoles that couldn't handle it, but now that all relevant consoles can push 64 players, they should think about cutting it. Breakthrough and Rush are too similar, and Breakthrough is the better mode. It plays to Battlefield's strengths of large-scale combined arms warfare when it's at full size. Right now the player base is dropping. I don't want to go doom and gloom. Most games lose players over time, it's normal. However, it seems like enthusiasm is dropping. Recently they announced they are delaying Season 2. Personally, I was very excited about this game when it launched. And the first couple of weeks, first rounds of patches, cutting the Breakthrough player count, it put me off. But the new maps are what really did it in for me. They are prioritizing smaller maps and faster gameplay, while reducing the movement speed and jumping, which indicates to me that they can't pick a lane. They are trying to please both groups, the perceived groups being the COD players, new players, versus the long-term fans. I don't think it's going to work appealing to those people and prioritizing them. The gameplay is fine, tune it however you want. I don't think it's actually going to change many people's opinions for the most part, despite what players might say. I think big maps would quiet down most agitated players and bring back large combined arms warfare. I think the reason they are making so many small maps and downsizing the modes, well, obviously to appeal to COD fans, there are a lot of them. But another one I've heard and believe is that 2042 traumatized them. There were a lot of frustratingly open maps, especially at release, where you would be running across them only to be Swiss cheesed by snipers. However, something that improves all of this is adding cover. The main issue with those maps were that they had no cover. They were basically flat. You were in the open most of the time and you were constantly being shot at from distance. Just adding a little bit of cover goes a long way. Big maps are good. There are a lot of really good big maps in the franchise. Low-hanging fruit is the start and bring those back. Test the waters. And then take a crack at making new maps with similar size and scale philosophies. Look, there are ways to please both, appealing to one crowd or the other. However, something to keep in mind. While Call of Duty is currently shitting the bed, it still does. While Call of Duty is shitting the bed, it still does this kind of gameplay better, and it always will do that kind of gameplay better. You know, very close-up, frantic, fast-paced combat. I don't think there is mileage in leaning towards the COD and Warzone crowd. RedSec is good, but large-scale combat is where Battlefield shines. It's what it's good at. And when COD gets its foot out of its mouth, it's going to take back the COD crowd you took, and perhaps even the RedSec players too. COD has never done large-scale warfare as good as Call of Duty. It did okay at one point, depending on who you ask, but it was nowhere near as good at its peak as Battlefield is at its peak. But the main modes, Breakthrough especially, needs a lot more love than what it's been getting. Don't lean on portals to save you. Don't be Bethesda and rely on mods. Put in the work. And at the heart of the biggest issues with this game are the maps. Frankly, everything else is to some extent an edge case. Maps affect every aspect of the game. How powerful the movement is, what guns are meta, how effective vehicles are. I'm an old fan. I don't mind them trying to bring in new ones. It's just that the maps have been universal complaint since launch. And it feels like those complaints are falling on deaf ears. While I wait for this game to improve, I can play through the catalog, I suppose. But I really want this game to improve because Battlefield 6 seems like it's finally turning things around for the franchise that, let's be real, needed a win for a long time. Bring Breakthrough back, goddammit. Thanks everyone. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment.